For as long as I can remember, they've been telling us to enjoy it while they're young, but our days are filled with chaos and stress and cooking and endless laundry piles. Where's the time to enjoy it? Yeah, that's what I always thought too. There's so much I have to do. When do I find time for peace and joy and happiness when I barely have time to sleep? Mama, it's time to make shift happen. You can be a happy mom. If I can, you can. Trust me. I've been a mess, I've been depressed, I've been overwhelmed, I've been to the bottom of the pit, and I've risen, I've grown, I've bloomed, and it all started when I realized I didn't have to anything. I get to. It is my privilege and my honor and my divine responsibility to be the queen of my home. It's not a burden. I'm not a burden. I'm in charge. I'm the ruler. I'm the chaos coordinator. I'm the calm in the storm, and so are you. Come with me. Let's rise, mamas. Adjust your crown, accept your responsibility, change the effing world together. It's all in the way we choose to see it. I'm so glad you're here, friend. You're listening to Meant to Bloom with Brittany Clarkson.
And for those of you on here, just know that this is going to be the first of many, many, many workshops. Otherwise, welcome everybody. It is 10:06. Thank you so much for joining us today in our first workshop series. Man, my coffee hasn't kicked in yet. I want to welcome Brittany. I found her through another Facebook group. There was a stream of introductions, and Brittany's response really caught my attention because she was talking about planning, and I'm a planner junkie, y'all. And so I reached out to her to see, would she be willing and interested to do some type of presentation for our group. And so she agreed to it. So that just proves she's as crazy as the rest of us in this group. And so I am going to go ahead and let Brittany take it away and explain what she's going to be talking about.
Wow, I feel like I've beat so many odds to be here today. We've had all these like snow days and ice on the roads and stuff. So my kids' school keeps like getting delayed every day. And today we finally actually had snow at our house. And on top of that, like I've been fighting off a cold for like 5 days. So there's so many times where I thought we were going to have to cancel, but we're here. We did it. I have 3 kids at home with me today. So hopefully they will stay entertained for most of this, probably not all, but we'll find out what happens. Y'all know how that goes. But today, despite possible interruptions that may happen. But today I really wanted to like walk you guys through this quick mindset realign that is specific to how we look at our goals and our daily life. I believe that your goals cannot be something that you look at separate from every day. I think that's one of the major errors we come up against is thinking like, this is my daily life and these are my goals and not intermingling them. So that being said, let me introduce myself a little bit before we go any farther. I am Brittany Clarkson. I'm the mom to 3 young little boys who are home with me today. They're 3, 4, and 6. So we'll see how independent they can be this morning. But I'm also the host of the Meant to Bloom podcast, where I teach moms everything that I wish I knew years ago. I struggled with depression and anxiety for over a decade until I eventually couldn't handle it anymore. And I was about to opt out of life when I had this overwhelming knowing that I'm just the best mom for my kids. And thinking of how lost they would be and my husband would be without me is what kept me, it gave me that drive to be like, okay, I have to stay here. And if I'm going to stay here, things have to change. I can't stay in this cycle of mental illness and depression and just a crappy mindset that was like, I was creating this environment I didn't want to be in. So that's how I really got started on this whole mindset mentorship that I am involved in now. And so I knew that if I kept hating myself, I wasn't going to survive. And I made it my top priority to heal myself and create new healthy habits that would actually stick with me. And that is what all led me to creating the Meant to Bloom podcast and the Everyday Joy Planners. And Blossom Academy, where I teach all the skills that I learn in depth. And just being here today, talking to you, that's how it got me here. And I believe that when we talk openly about the hard stuff, that's how we end that feeling of isolation that makes us feel like we're totally on our own. that just leaves you showing up burnt out and bitter every time you come up for air, right? Have we all been there? Where you're just struggling with this balance of like, I'm trying to be a mom and be present for my kids, but also I want to get all the things done. And how do I do both? I think so much of our power lies in our mindset of how we choose to approach these things. I'm all about balance and harmony. I'm all about learning to be mindful and present in the moment while also kicking ass and taking names when it comes to growing my business and caring for the home at the same time. I will make one disclaimer, and I wrote this in huge bold letters on my notes, is that I believe you can do anything, but you can't do everything on your own all the time. That is probably the first mindset shift and realization you have to make if you're ever going to feel like you're actually achieving your goals that you're setting out to do time and time again. You can do anything, but not everything all at once, all by yourself. I believe delegation is super important, and I believe knowing when to let go of things is very important. At some point, there's got to be, at some point, something's got to give. And this is how I personally achieve this harmony, is that some days I let every dish in my kitchen get dirty. Some days I let my laundry pile get completely out of control. But on those days, I will do one of three very important things. I either work hard to get ahead on business, I spend the day connecting with my kids and my husband, or I rest, because rest is just as important as anything else, if not more. I am a big advocate for avoiding burnout. Rest is definitely number one on the list there. But see, I know that I can clean a beyond disastrous home in one day of hard work. Allowing myself to let go of the stress that I was holding on to about my house getting to be a mess, that was life-changing, because it doesn't help you to, try to create this harmony where you're allowing the house to get messy so you can do something else, but you're stressing about the house at the same time. You have to trust, I'm going to get to that when I get to that. And I can let it go. I can find ways to allow the stress to exit my body. In the meantime, I think it's just all about this ebb and flow, because I know it would be impossible for me, as I am, to keep my house completely clean all of the time. I mean, even if I just go back in time to before I was working from home, during a space between working full time and quitting that job in order to have kids, I had like 6 months where I was home and I was nothing but a wife. I had no other responsibilities but the home, and I still could not keep it perfectly clean. So I'm not about to start blaming my kids. I have kids living here. We can't have it clean. I live here. I can't have my house perfectly clean. I know myself, and I allow myself to let go of the stress over the house being perfectly clean. And learning to let go of the stress over all those small things. And aligning with my bigger picture purpose, that was a skill that has kept me going and kept me growing. All right, so I want you to ask yourself one question, and then we're going to get into the specifics of the mindset realign here, is why are you not achieving the things you keep saying you want to achieve? All right, we all have things that we put on our to-do list over and over again. We all have things that we set out as a goal and we keep not even working towards it. I know a time, it even still comes up now sometimes, and I just have to totally do a realign, but sometimes I'll put the same thing on my goal at the start of the month, and then I'll forget about it. Like it wasn't even important at the time. This mindset realign, this is a quick productivity mindset realign. It's a system that I'm going to share with you today that's loosely based on a 5-day mindset realign challenge that I have taught spontaneously for the last 2 years, multiple times. And it's also become a workbook that accompanies it that has become my best-selling printable product. So I know that the mindset realign works, and this is my first time sharing it in this specific aspect, and condensing it all into like, let's do it in one day. So we have a lot to cover. It is a 5-step process, and honestly, take notes and give yourself multiple days to go through this. Because that's what it was originally designed to be, is a 5-day process. But I'm going to teach it all to you right now. So first step is intention. This is that big picture purpose that I mentioned a minute ago. So let's set your intentions. You have to know where it is you want to be going in the grand scheme of things, not just what are my business goals? What are my home goals? What are my family goals? What are my self goals? You need to know overall, what is my life meant to look like? What do I want my life to feel like? What is the theme for your purpose on life? And it doesn't have to be this tiny little pinpoint thing. It can be a broad, overarching theme that you allow to come up in all of your different relationships and aspects of life. All right. So when you think of what your loved ones will say when you are gone, okay, what do you hope that they will say about you? And if that were to be today, would them saying that be true of you? All right. Are you living the way you truly want to be living? I've walked people through this funeral exercise before where you picture that you're actually at your funeral and each person is standing up. Every person that you know and love is standing up and talking about you and your life that you lived. What is that legacy you're hoping to leave behind? What are the things you want them to say about you? And would those things actually be true of you? All right. For me, the first time I ever did this exercise, the answer of was I living the life I wanted to live was a big, huge no. I wanted to be known as someone who is known for sharing her love and sharing her light. And at the time that I first ever did this exercise, that was not me at all. I was so consumed in my depression and my self-hatred that I was constantly fearing that everyone was judging me. And I was just building these walls to isolate myself from everybody. That was not acting out of love. And that was not acting in a lit up way at all. I was hiding, I was isolating, and I was building walls to keep everyone out. And making that realization shifted a lot of things in my life. Okay. And FYI, it was gratitude that was what aligned my life with my intention. In my content on my podcast, I talk a lot about gratitude. So if you have questions about gratitude, for sure, yeah, I'll answer those. But the way I see it, life is a journey across the sea. All right. And if you're going to spend every day paddling and you're going to be passing time and you're going to be burning your energy, putting out these efforts to get somewhere. But if you don't know where you're trying to go, if you don't keep your eyes on the destination that you want, you're going to waste a lot of time, you're going to waste a lot of energy, and you're going to end up going in circles or getting yourself lost. All right. Your intentions set your destination, and the goals are merely your milestones along the way. All right. If you're setting goals that are contradictory to your life's intention, you're probably struggling to achieve those goals. If you're setting goals just based on what you think your life is supposed to look like, if you're setting goals based on what other people want for you, but it's not really what you want for you, you're not going to have a lot of motivation to stick with them. And then you're just going to get stuck in this spiral of, oh, I keep failing to achieve my goals, when really you're just failing to try for a life you don't want. That's not really failing, is it? So let's get mindful. Let's pay attention. Why are we doing the things we're doing? Why are we thinking the things we're thinking? Sort of deconstructing your thoughts on why you're going where you're trying to go. And are you really wanting to get there? This is why intention is so, so important. And then we'll move on to number 2. This is assessment. Where are you right now? And what is holding you back? Okay. Once you know where you want to go, the question is, why are you not there? What is standing in your way from being everything you've ever wanted to be and doing everything that you want to do? All right. This could be from a number of things, and you're probably going to need to journal your way through this or meditate your way through it or however you process. But some of the things that could be holding you back is that you've been striving for a life that you think you should live instead of the one you actually want. It could be that you have limiting thoughts regarding your self-worth, that you feel unworthy of the success that would come from completing the tasks. It could be perfectionism, which we all know is a dumb one, but it still seeps its way into our lives. Perfection doesn't exist. We all know that. And yet we still find ourselves in this trap of striving for it and waiting for, I'll put this out into the world once it's done, once it's perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Now is always the best time. You might be holding yourself back with unhelpful thoughts or unhelpful habits and distractions that you're letting stop you. Things like not using your spare time wisely and completely distracting yourself from the tasks you need to do, like with social media scrolling or Netflix binging, or, doing things like procrastinating instead of taking action on what you need to take action on. You're just redesigning your business again. And if you need to rest, then rest. But don't distract yourself from peace in ways that you know are not peaceful to you, like social media scrolling. If you're going to sit down for 5 minutes and call it rest, does scrolling social media really feel restful? Or does it end up stressing you out in the end? Or it might be the fear of success that's stopping you. So you might have to answer for yourself the question of, who am I if I succeed at this? If I really go for what I say I want to go for, if I really achieve that, what does that make me? Does that make me who I'm supposed to be? Does it make me who I am? These are some of the questions you might need to work your way through, journal up on, process. Why are you not where you want to be? What are you allowing to stand in your way and to stop you? I'm willing to bet it lies in your thoughts and in your habits. It's not part of your it's not lying in your capability at all, because you can do anything. So I want to move into number 3. All right, power statement. This is the new affirmation. What can you tell yourself to get yourself back on track? All right, it's inevitable that when you set goals, when you start striving for more, you're going to get off track. When you're trying to get a lot of things done, something's going to come up. You're going to end up on a detour. You're going to, you're going to fall off track. But how you handle that is what's important. All right. It will not ever go smoothly from point A to Z ever. Success is not linear. It is, we've all seen like that graph where it's like success, we thought it was going to be from here to here, but really it's from here, and it's up and down until you get there. You're going to feel like you're falling off track, but you're really on course. All right. What you need to do is keep your mindset on course, and having a power statement is going to help you do that. All right. So this is kind of like your fail-safe. So there will always come days where things don't go right. And there will always be a time when you choose a distraction, or life just happens and gets in the way. Things like snow days and sick kids and illness and all kinds of things come up. But are you going to let it stop you? Are you going to let it screw with your head? All right. Everything sometimes gets chaotic for a bit. And the best thing you can do is give yourself grace, give yourself time, and give yourself a pep talk. So power statement is a great way to give yourself a pep talk, So this is the new version of affirmations. Affirmations are always known as like the I am statement, but a power statement can be so much more than that. It's a broader umbrella of term. So it could be an affirmation. It could be like a Bible verse or a song lyric, or it could be any kind of short statement that kicks you in the pants and reminds you of who you are and where you're going. It could be like a mantra, or it could be anything, even if it's just like one word, like you pick one word for the year and that just means a lot to you. Choose that. So take this as a note to yourself and post it all around your house. Like put it on Post-it notes everywhere you're going to see it. I want you to immerse yourself in your power statement once you have it. Set it as your phone wallpaper, make it your anthem, make a playlist that reminds you of this statement that you can just put on and be like, this is my power playlist. And when I'm listening to this, I know everything's going to work out okay. I'm going to get right back where I'm supposed to be. Success is not linear. We're going to fall off track sometimes, and that's okay. Sometimes taking a detour turns into a shortcut. Keep your mindset positive. Keep looking at that silver lining. Keep looking at the end of the road where you're going. Don't think just because you got off course that you have to go back to the beginning and start over. that's going to be so powerful to you to keep moving forward. Okay, we're going to move on to number 4. This is your enoughness. Okay. When we talk about productivity, when we talk about achieving goals, I cannot stress enough that you are enough already. Okay. You cannot be placing your worth in your productivity. So I know we fall into this trap a lot to place our worth in our productivity. You have to find your worth elsewhere. You have to know who you are, and that who you are is not dependent on the things you achieve and do. So it's not helpful to be placing our worth on our productivity. And I know that you're here for a bigger purpose than to do everything on your to-do list, right? We have to look at that bigger picture purpose. Look at your intention for life. All right, you're already enough, and what you do is irrelevant to your worth. You need to understand that whether or not you achieve your goals or get a lot done any given day, it means nothing about who you are. Achieving your goals is not important because it means something about you. It's important because it means something to you. All right, so FYI, you created your goals. Keep this mindset check in mind, okay? You created the goals. You decided what you wanted, and you get to change your mind and reset the table and start again anytime you want to. You get to move the markers, and you get to decide your milestones. And you also get to choose whether your win is small or big, okay? I just had a friend who launched her blog. She just started on a whole new website, and she hit 50 views in her first 2 days. And she was like sharing it with me and feeling like, I know it's such a small win, but it feels big to me. And I'm like, it's only small because you called it small. To you, that's big. That's 50 more views than you had 2 days ago when you fresh started. Celebrate the small wins. I remember launching my podcast when I hit my first 1,000 views, or my first 1,000 downloads. I was like, everyone around me has had their podcast for years, and they're at 1 million downloads or something like that. And I feel so small, and I feel so ashamed of being excited for 1,000. But that was my first 1,000. I had to let myself be excited for that. It's only small if I make it small. It was 1,000 more downloads than I had before I started. 1,000 is a pretty big number. So that being said, don't let your goals make you feel inferior when you're the one who created them. You get to decide that you're enough. Whether you achieve what you're setting out to do, whether your to-do list is still a mile long, doesn't mean anything about your worth. All right, let's move to number 5. This is your focus. Okay. The biggest obstacle that I have faced in achieving goals is trying to do too much at once. All right, remember, you can do anything, but you can't do everything all by yourself all the time. There's one mantra that has helped me when it comes to staying focused and really getting things done. I'm going to share a couple mantras here with you because focus has a few pillars underneath it for me. But one thing at a time. Just focusing on one thing at a time. This has helped my anxiety, and it has helped my focus. I say this with a deep breath, and when I exhale, I actually envision stress leaving my body. Okay? We can create these to-do lists that just have so much on them. We set out to do so many things. And I didn't put this in my notes, but I do want to share with you while I'm thinking about it. I heard a study recently where they were talking about the way men and women view their to-do lists differently. And the question, there was a couple questions asked, and it was, how many items are on your to-do list? And how do you feel at the end of the day? And so the men were asked how many items are on your to-do list. On average, men put 6 things on their to-do list. And on average, the men completed 6 things on their to-do list. At the end of the day, the men felt really great about their to-do lists. They felt awesome about their ability to do what they set out to do. Women, on the other hand, how many items do you usually put on your to-do list? On average, women were putting 26 on their list. And on average, women were achieving 6 of them. So here's where the difference lies. Women were setting out to do a whole lot more. And then we were doing just as much as the men. But we were feeling like we failed because we wanted to do 20 more things than what we did. And now we're not focusing on the 6 things we finished. That was just a little segue. That was a mind opener for me, realizing, okay, we can't do 26 things in a day. No one can, because everyone setting out to do 26 is doing 6. There's no sense in feeling like a failure simply because you set out to do more than you can do. It's your goal. You can change it. You decided you wanted to do 26 things, change your mind. Decide you want to do 6. This is why I'm making so many of like the mental health and productivity professionals always tell you choose 3 priorities for your day. This is why. Because when you set out to do way too many, you don't achieve them, and then you feel like garbage about it because you're only focused on what you didn't finish instead of focusing on what you did finish. Which, by the way, that's another way that gratitude can come into play. Focusing on what went right, focusing on what you did accomplish. And I do have one little hack for that. That just it increases the dopamine in some way that I can't explain. But when you're doing your to-do list, instead of checking off what you complete or scratching it out, use a highlighter to highlight it. I don't know why, but it pulls your focus to what you've done instead of what you haven't done. And especially if you do it like in your favorite color, it's just a dopamine boost every time you look at your to-do list. You're like, oh yeah, I completed all these things. That's just a little bonus tip for you there. So I'm what they call a multi-passionate woman, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of you here are the same, where you want to do a lot of really different things. And this is where one thing at a time has been so helpful, because otherwise you want to start 1 and then 2 and then 3 things, and you're not finishing anything. And when you're not finishing things, that's not great for your mindset. It's not great for your mentality, because you're just thinking, oh, I have a lot on my plate, because you chose to start 3 different things at one time instead of finishing something. And I did hear a productivity and business expert. It was actually Amanda Edwards who taught me the 80% rule, where if you're going to start something, you start it and you do that one thing. You focus on one thing until it's about 80% done before you start something new. So the idea is to go deep, not wide. All right, give all your attention to one thing at a time and quit trying to constantly multitask everything. Give your all to one thing. And some people have always asked along the way, how do you juggle it all? Have you ever paid attention to a juggler? They aren't holding all the balls at one time. And they never start, like the jugglers who do like 7 balls at a time, they're never really starting with 7. They start with just 3 and they get going until they're in a momentum. And a juggler knows when to let something go and when to add something in. All right, almost any given time, the juggler probably has maybe 3 balls in their hand while the rest are up in the air. So I like to use that analogy of thinking, okay, if I'm going to do a lot of things in my life, I'm only going to hold on to like 1 or 2 things at a time. I'm only going to give my attention to 1 or 2 things at a time. And then I'm going to let that go and shift to the next thing when the time is right. One bonus tip I wanted to tell you here is that I have recently chosen to limit my time spent working so that I can spend more time creating the home that lives in my dreams and being super present with my kids. Oh yeah, our big intention with being super present with our kids is to limit screen time around here. We're starting to get bad attitudes. So that's become a new goal of mine. And so the rule that I've started following for myself in my online business is that I'm taking one small step towards revenue every day and calling it good. There were times where I would allow myself to spend way too much time at my computer, and I was procrastinating. I wasn't actually doing the thing that needed to get done. So by limiting myself and saying I'm only going to do one thing each day that's going to result in revenue, that has made me hyper focus on the actual really important things that need to get done. Okay, things like being a podcast guest, networking, teaching workshops, pitching my planners to local shops and things. All the things that scare me the most were the things I kept putting off, but they're the things that my business actually needs, not a new website design again. So doing that thing that scares you the most first, that is a big, big tip. Okay. So if there's something that you keep putting off, you keep putting it on your to-do list, you keep saying, I'll do it later because it's scaring you, make that the next thing you do. Decide for yourself, I'm not doing anything else. Next time I pick up my phone, next time I get on my computer, I'm going to do the thing that scares me, the thing that makes me want to puke, because that needs to get done. Okay, and I'm full of bonus tips today. I wrote so many extra tips in my notes I wanted to talk about, but I couldn't totally fit them in anywhere. But I keep thinking, it keeps coming up to me, is Mickey Mouse. Okay, so your biggest moneymaker, your big idea that you have, something that you want to launch, something you want to do, a big service or product you want to create, it doesn't have to be perfect before it enters the world. You don't have to have the perfect name. You don't have to have the perfect color palette on it when you introduce it to the world. It will still turn out to be something that is so loved by so many. Mickey Mouse was originally Steamboat Willie. He wasn't even Mickey Mouse the first time the world met him. And now he's like, you think of a cartoon character and Mickey Mouse is like number one. And who's right behind him? In classic cartoons, probably Winnie the Pooh. Both of these two have been around for a very long time, and they're still the toddlers' favorites. Winnie the Pooh was not originally Winnie the Pooh either. He was introduced to us, I believe, as Edward Bear. So I love to keep those things in mind when I'm getting all perfectionistic about something I'm creating, something I want to teach, something I want to do, and realize I can just start where I am. You can make the tweaks and the changes along the way. You can rebrand it later. Change is okay. The audience will still come to love them and they will still be a favorite, even if it's not exactly how it's going to be in the end when you launch. So that is the 5-step system that I have for you for realigning your mindset. Is starting with your intention, do a self-assessment. Where are you? Why aren't you where you want to be? What's standing in your way? Creating that power statement to get you through. Know that you're already enough and keep your focus.
Thank you so much for joining me today for this episode of Meant to Bloom. It really does mean the world to me. But are you ready to take this a step farther? Check out the description below of this episode and grab your mindset makeover. It's totally free, my gift to you. Then hop on Instagram and let me know what you thought of this episode. Tag me at Britt Clarkson, that's BritClarkson. If any part of this resonated with you, please let me know by tagging me or leave a review and share on social media so other mamas can find this too. If it helped you, it's gonna help someone else. You're part of a movement now. Let's go.